So the biodiversity, the biodiversity and its conservation, like the summary part. Since life originated on Earth nearly 3.8 billion years ago, okay, there had been enormous diversification of life forms on Earth. Biodiversity refers to the sum total of diversity that exists at all levels of biological organization, right? So a particular importance is the diversity at genetic, species and ecosystem levels, and conservation efforts are aimed at protecting uh, at all levels of biological organization. So of particular importance is the diversity at genetic, species and ecosystem levels, and conservation efforts are aimed at protecting diversity at all these levels. Okay, so more than 1.5 million species have been recorded in the world. So more than 1.5 million species have been recorded in the world. Okay, but there might still be nearly 6 million species on Earth waiting to be discovered and named. So life originated on Earth nearly 3.8 billion years ago. Then 1.5 millions more than is discovered. 6 millions nearly to be waiting. Okay. Now of the named species, like more than 70% are animals, of which 70% are animals. In animals, like 70% are the insects. So the group fungi has more species than all the vertebrate species combined. Whatever vertebrates means fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds and then mammals. Okay, in India with about 45,000 species of plants and twice as many species of animals. So this is one of the 12 mega diversities in of the world. Is one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. So species diversity on Earth is not uniformly distributed but shows interesting patterns. So species diversity on Earth is not uniformly disturbed but shows interesting pattern, right? So it is generally highest in the tropics and decreases towards the poles. So species diversity is highest in the tropic and decreases towards the pole. Okay. Now important explanation for the species richness of the tropics are: tropics had more evolutionary time, they provide a relatively constant environment, and they receive more solar energy, which contributes to greater productivity. Now species richness is also a function of the area of a region. The species area relationship is generally rectangular hyperbolic function. Okay, species richness is also a function of the area of a region. Okay, and tropics had more evolutionary time, as also they provide a relatively constant environment, and they receive more solar energy, which contributes to greater productivity. Now it is believed that communities with high diversity tend to be less variable and more productive, more resistant to biological invasions. So it is believed that communities with high diversity tend to be less variable. They have the nice diversity, hence they are so they have the nice diver they have the higher diversity, tend to be less variable and more productive and more resistant to biological invasions. So Earth's fossil history reveals incidents of extinctions in the past. So Earth's fossil history reveals incidents of mass extinctions in the past, but the present rates of extinction largely attributed to human activities. Okay, largely attributed to human activities are 100 to 1000 times higher. Now, nearly 700 species have become extinct in recent times, and more than 50,500 species. So, nearly 700 species have been extinct in recent times, and more than 50,500 species, of which more than 650 are from India. So, more than 50,500 species are from India. They are extinct, right? Currently, oh no, they are not extinct. 700 is extinct, but 50,500 are facing the threat of extinction. Now the cause of high extinction rates at present include habitat, particularly forest loss, habitat loss and fragmentation, right? And overexploitation, then biological invasions, and then co-extinctions. So overexploitation, then biological invasions, and then co-extinction. Earth's rich biodiversity is vital for the very survival of mankind, right? Horse-rich biodiversity is vital, right? The reasons for conserving biodiversity are narrowly utilitarian, direct benefit, and broadly utilitarian, that is indirectly benefit, and ethical, that is emotional, and okay, in all that emotions, all that. So it is uh, and then ethical. Okay, so besides the direct benefits, that is fiber, food, fiber, firewood, and then pharmaceuticals, etc., there are many indirect, that is benefits we receive through food ecosystem services such as pollination. So pollination is done by plant animals, right? Plant animal relationship. So their pollination, then pest control, and then climate moderation and flood control. Climate moderation and flood control, this is broadly utilitarian, that is indirect benefit, right? So we also have moral responsibility. Now we are getting direct and indirect benefits, so it's our responsibility. So comes under the ethical biodiversity. Now we also have a moral responsibility to take good care of Earth's biodiversity and pass it on in a good order to our next generation. Now biodiversity conservation may be in situ as well as ex situ. In situ conservation, the endangered species are protected in their natural habitat so that the entire ecosystem is protected. In ecosystem, the endangered species, that is facing the threat, endangered species are protected in their natural habitat so that the entire forest is protected. So whole forest is protected for one tiger, right? Recently 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world have been proposed for intensive conservation efforts. So recently 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world have now been proposed for intensive conservation of efforts. Of these three, so out of 12, like three biodiversity, that is hotspots, biological hotspots, um, like on three, that is Western Ghats, that is Sri Lanka, Western Ghat, that is Sri Lanka, and then Himalaya, and then Indo-Burma, over India's rich biodiversity regions. Our countries in situ conservation efforts are reflected in its 14 biosphere reserves, then 19 national parks, then more than 450 wildlife sanctuaries, and many sacred groves. So ex situ conservation methods protective include protective maintenance of threatened species in zoological parks and botanical gardens, in vitro fertilization, tissue culture, propagation, and cryopreservation of gametes. So of threatened species in zoological parks and botanical gardens, in zoological parks and botanical gardens, in vitro fertilization, tissue culture, propagation, and cryopreservation. But in vitro fertilization, tissue culture, propagation, and cryopreservation of gametes. So 90 national parks and more than 450 wildlife safaris, more than 450 wildlife sanctuaries, right? And many sacred groves and 40 biosphere reserves, right? Now exercises: name the three important components of biodiversity. So three important components of biodiversity, so these are like the abiotic, biotic, and then, so all these are components of biodiversity. How do ecologists estimate the total number of species present in the world? So how do made by biomass and percentage cover number of species present in the world, or give three hypotheses for explaining why tropics show greater levels of species richness. Because species richness is a function of time. uh, then like what is the okay, show greater levels of species. So in tropics there is had evolutionary time, so and more solar energy and predictable seasonal changes, right? What are the what is the significance of the slope of regression in a species area relationship? So it just tell like total diversity, right? What is biodiversity important for ecosystem functioning? How is biodiversity important for ecosystem functioning? It is very important that it it has a food cycle, then food wave, then nutrient cycling, and then so this is it. So what are sacred groves and what is their role in conservation? It is inside conservation. Okay, it is sacred groves, right? There are many sacred groves. Among the ecosystem services are control of floods and soil erosion. How is this achieved by the biotic components of the ecosystem? System are control of floods and soil erosion. It is broadly utilitarian. How is this achieved by biotic components of the ecosystem? The species diversity of plants, that is 22%, is much less than that of animals, that is 72%. What could be the explanation to how animals achieve greater diversification? Can you think of a situation where we deliberately want to make a species extinct? Can you think of a situation where we deliberately want to make a species extinct? How would you justify it?